They're going to be able to hear us, so just don't say anything for a second.
SquareHammer.
Shit. Wait. I gotta find my phone. Where is it? It's right there. The other one. Got it. We're good.
All right, so... Oh, 1 second.
SquareHammer.
Shit. Wait. I gotta find my phone. Where is it? It's right there. The other one. Got it. We're good.
Welcome, guys. All right, so... This is SquareHammer, and we are here to talk about the two most recent GW articles. One was on October 30th. All right, so about the first rules about the turn sequence, and we are here to talk about the next one most recent GW articles, the movement phases. One was on I'm Blue. 30th. If everyone else would like to just do a little quick intro of himself. First rules about the turn sequence. And we are here to talk about the next one.
Chris, also known as Jonesy.
The movement phases. One was on
I'm Blue. Hey everybody, my name's
Andrew.
Andrew.
Like to just do a little quick
Hey guys,
intro
I'm
of
Peter.
himself. First rules about the turn sequence.
We all know Blue.
We all know Blue.
Also known as Jonesy.
The movement phases. One was on
I'm Blue. Hey everybody, you're talking about Warhammer Armies project, right, Blue? The GW dropped.
No, but it kind of is very similar to. They took some rules from Warhammer's Armies project, which is like the charges. It seems like they're going to be doing a lot of the charge sequences in terms of that. But we're getting to that later. So welcome, everyone. This is SquareHammer. We're going to be talking about the articles, as I just said. Welcome to those in the chat. We're here to have fun. Let's just talk. We're trying to theorize of what's going to happen later for, like, what's the next article going to be, because I know at the bottom of them they do say, I think it's the shooting phase is next, if I'm not mistaken. Andrew's shaking his head yes, so at least I remember that correctly. But, so first let's get into it. We're going to talk about... Old World Almanack, your first look at the rules. So this was the article that was released on October 30th, and I can share this with everyone else. I would definitely have this up if y'all want to follow along with us. Obviously, you want to see our faces so you know who's talking, if it really matters. So the first thing they talk about is the game structure. Basically, when it just comes in the old world of how complex it is and how they want to try and keep some of the same rules and the strategy with what they used to have and try and carry it forward into this new edition. So I don't know what they're going to call it. Is it like old edition version 1? It's not like a 9th edition GW. But the first thing they talk about is the turn sequence, because we, as the people who have been basically keeping the old world alive, have been dying to see the rules. We like to see the lore, we like to see the map updates, and like what factions will be here, what there be where. Like you can find little gems hidden in the map where you see like a little high elf outpost, so then you know, okay, maybe they're going to be in the old world. But then they eventually released the list of all the armies, so they went into the turn sequence. So first is the strategy phase, which makes me really think of Warhammer 40K when it, like the command phase. And it's interesting how in each of the phases, so there's the strategy phase, the movement phase, the shooting phase, the combat phase, and those are the 4 phases. Within each of those phases, they listed in the article that whichever spell is pertinent to that phase or can affect something during that phase, that's when you cast that spell. That's brand new. That has not happened in any edition that I'm aware of. So I'm interested to see how that's actually going to work in terms of, if you cast a spell, do my wizards have a chance to affect and dispel your spell, or is it just you just have to get the spell off and there's nothing I can do? Which is a huge change with no magic phase. What do y'all think?
Well, yeah, I think I'll hop in. I think it'll be interesting. So I think like with the psychic phases in Warhammer 40K, and I haven't played any at 10th, so I'm speaking mostly from 8th and from 9th. I think that like denying the witch or whatever the dispel equivalent had to do with like one of your psychers' proximity to whoever the active player was and whoever they were trying to do it. So am I going to have any sort of defensive capabilities? It might be proximity based, or it could just be, hey, like it's always been, if you're going to try to do something, it becomes an interesting game then, because like how do you is it like in 6th edition where each wizard, depending on wizard level, generates a fixed pool of numbers? Do you always know going in, like, what are you going to have? It'll be interesting to see how they do that. Like the magic phase is probably the one I'm most excited for,
Okay.
since, well, I
Or
mean,
the
there won't
magic
even technically
phase.
be a magic phase, but
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just hoping that they keep. It looks like they're doing this is keeping the actual dice pools for these, because that's such a good kind of game within a game. Having to bluff out your opponent and try to read them, figure out what they're going to probably try and cast next, so how many dice you're going to throw at that. You're always trying to account for miscasts and stuff. But I think this just adds another dimension to it, because, yeah, like you said, it's split up over different phases, rather than just all happening at once. And I really don't see too much of a problem with that. I think it adds depth.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like the change with regards because I've seen other games and played other games where there's kind of like abilities, I'll describe them, that have like triggering events. So they're not always like a thing that you do or there's like a set phase to do them. It's kind of like a triggered event happens and then you can go and do something. And that's kind of where I'm looking at it with these different kind of how they're changing it. And I think it's kind of interesting because it does allow, things that happen in the movement phase affect the movement to happen in that phase, right? And you can immediately see the effect of what happens right there. And I do think, Andrew, they are going to a point of talking about wizards and kind of like proximity of how the wizards are interacting, because the article talked about like, having your wizards being in important positions, not just to buff your units, but also to maybe help stop the enemy wizard.
There we go.
I am interested with the fact of how they're going to approach it, because all we've seen is I think the one spell for Tomb Kings come out, and
Oh yeah.
yeah, just seeing how they're gonna cast it, what are the modifiers, how that whole interaction is gonna go. I do kind of also like the change because I think it's a good, because if your army has like 2 or 3 spells that it's good at, it can do. I think you can get those spells off more consistently with regards versus like having to quote unquote dominate or dominate the phase or have a lot of stuff. So that way your 1 or 2 spells that you kind of you really want to get off, but then you have these other spells that are like, hey, these are my backup spells that are still powerful in their own right. Like I think of like Warrior Priest Prayers, for example, right? Where it's like, okay, if I can get a couple of these off, it'll be really good.
What's up, Andrew? You had something to
People
say?
might.
Yeah, well, I'm thinking so, like, even specifically cited within like the strategy phases, talking about how like this is where like enchantments or hex. I'm assuming enchantments are going to be the equivalent of what were formerly like the augment type spells, right? Like,
Yeah, I would agree.
because your certain spell and the effects of that spell only can now happen in a certain phase, like it takes some of the gamesmanship away almost a little bit. Like that was like in 8th edition, 7th edition, like you try to always cast sort of like your give me spell, or like you do what you're trying to pull everybody's
Are you
dice.
talking
So
about
it's one
baiting?
phase,
You talking
one
about like
phase.
baiting
Yeah,
dice out?
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Trying
Yeah.
to bait dice out. Now I know, like in the example with Empire, right?
I see what you're saying.
I have my augment spells that can only happen in strategy phase. Like if someone wants to stop my most effective stuff, which is, let's say it's the Warrior Priest's prayers, like I'm just going to load everything I got into that, and then it's like, well, if I don't have great movement augmenters or combat or shooting augmenters, they're not so worried about it. So it's like it's good because you have the effects of what that spell's supposed to do only happening in that sub phase, so there's not those weird interactions that always got everybody kind of spun up. But it also sort of emphasizes and makes it easier to just really focus on stopping the things you need to stop, and there's no way to get around it.
Well, I'm curious if they're going to have like each wizard can only dispel once per, or attempt to spell once per phase, but I doubt that'll be a thing. But I see what you're saying, because then if I could only dispel like once or twice as a defensive in the enemy's turn, then maybe it really depends on what the enemy wizards have to try and cast. Like if they only have an enchantment or hex spells, then it's easy for me to focus there. But I'm curious if it's going to be more like, I think it was 9th edition 40k, where whenever you cast a spell, basically if you had an enemy, if you cast a spell and there was an enemy wizard, which I believe it was 24 inches, then on a 4-up, it was like a deny the witch. So you try and cast your spell on like a 5, 6, 7, whatever it was, depending on the difficulty of the spell. And then on a 4-up, if I just roll a 4-up, the spell's entirely gone. I don't really.
Mhm.
I hope it's not like that because it seems, but it seems very simplistic compared to what it used to be when it was like you're rolling 5 dice to try and stop it, or 3 dice, or if you're playing Warhammer's Armies Project, you explode on 6s, and then that's a whole new a new mathematical avenue you have to follow. So it'll be
Or you're
interesting.
playing,
What's up,
Yeah.
Peter?
or you're
Well,
playing
also,
16,000 points. Sorry, go ahead.
oh,
That's fair.
you finish
Fair.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking like if just based on how the phases are, you're gonna have to invest more in wizard protection. Like
Hmm.
if now you need to be closer to, and we don't even know, but if you have to be closer to another wizard to try to dispel them, that means you have to move your wizard closer, which means like
That's fair.
you can't just sit in the back in a bunker of 10 archers and hope to dispel stuff. I mean, you could, but I could see that like actually investing in you know beef. I don't know, maybe a beefier unit to babysit it and not get in combat. But maybe that's just what they want. And you want more risk. So
Well,
you're not always going to have a caster.
they might add what they also had in ninth edition 40K was if you weren't the close. So if you had a unit up front closer to you and you had a character that had less than I think it was 9 wounds, you cannot target that character that doesn't have a certain amount of wounds. So maybe you could like hide the wizard. You could still move them up with your unit, but then your wizard couldn't be shot at because it's not the closest one. Maybe something along those lines. Man, there's so many options they have.
They just get run down on the overrun.
Yeah. Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
One question I had, Blue, was
Yeah.
so when they changed 40K with the how Psychic was done, was there like a difference in power level with the kind of the powers that were happening in terms of like either they got toned them down because it was a little bit easier to cast and more consistent and it was harder to stop, or was it kind of the same?
It was a combo. It was more of some of those powers. There was no like if I get this spell off, I auto win the game. There's nothing like that. So I would say in that regard, they were definitely toned down compared to. They're definitely toned down compared to like Warhammer Fantasy 8th Edition for sure. Even Warhammer's Armies Project, they're way toned down even from that. But there were plenty of relics or something that you could do that were. Let me stop converting. What's going on? Pick up where you left off. Can y'all hear me? What the fuck? Hold on, fellas. Technical difficulties. Technical difficulties. The Zoom meeting just ended, and I would like to know why. Yeah, we're still live on YouTube. I'm just wondering why why Zoom just ended. Oh, really? I didn't see that at all. That's weird. Can y'all see us now? What's up, people? Uh,
Hello, World Wide Web.
I would like to know why that happened.
Fun fact, it's faster to say World Wide Web than it is to say www.
Oh, what are you saying? Who just said that? Who just said that in the chat? Should have splurged on a premium subscription. Yeah, we definitely should have. We need to get
Peter back,
yeah,
right?
where is he? Peter, rejoin us, please. Okay, so we can yeah, we're back, buddy. We can start where we left off. I'd like to know why. That's annoying as well, and we're back. Okay, well, back to you know what I'll probably do is I'll probably edit this out when it comes along. So, Jones, you mentioned the spell, so we can actually look at that spell and see how much more powerful or less powerful than it used to be. It is called Jav's Incantation of Cursed Blades. I'll bring that up for us so everyone else can see it too. Window capture. Haha. I know y'all won't be able to see it, like meaning you guys, but that's okay. So what this does, until the start of your next subphase, any friendly effect that has the Nakarkan Undead Special Rule and is within the caster's command range, so it doesn't seem like that's a spell range, it's like actually the range of which your general, wizard, whatever has a, I'm guessing it's probably going to be like a 12-inch, maybe even a 6-inch, that maybe even gives off his leadership from that bubble too, who knows. May reroll any natural ones of a roll to hit. So what's nice is it shows casting value of a 7. So with a casting value of a 7, it means you could at least use multiple dice. I don't know if that means if you will have a dice pool or if it's just like in 9th edition where you just roll 2 dice and that's just your what you get. And does it say in what phase? It says enchantment, so that actually means that it would be used at the start. That would be in the, what was it, the command phase? I think it was called the command
Strategy phase, I think.
Strategy phase, that's right.
I'm reading that right, yeah.
All right, Peter's back.
Well, I think
Sorry about that.
Hey, Peter,
One
you're back.
kind-
Welcome. That wasn't on you. Zoom ended, so I had to restart like the whole meeting
It
again.
feels like COVID again.
That's it. What were you gonna say, Andrew?
I was gonna say, like, looking at just the wordage, like, you know, the Nakaran Undead Special Rule, that's encouraging to me. It kind of looks like they're gonna start to do more like the keyword structures that you've seen in like 8th edition and 9th edition 40K, which that helps out a lot. Like, just kind of try and, you know, maybe reading too much into it, but that I hope thematically that they bring some of that to this, because that can definitely help streamline and move things around. It's like, hey, either binarily you have the Nekaran keyword and this affects you, or you don't. End of discussion. All that other stuff. It's fingers crossed.
Rather than stuff from like one of the old Beastmen books where it's like any humans you're fighting against, you get this bonus. It's like,
right.
It's chaos count.
Hate,
like
hatred, chaos, and all that other stuff.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
They did give us one an enchanted item, so that's like a magic item, and I believe it is it's Bretonnians. It's the Falcon Horn of Fredimund. This ancient horn was used by the Grell champion Duke Fredimund of Aquitaine. When blown, it emits a piercing cry, and the skies become filled with rocks of hunting birds. And during the command subphase of their turn, if they are not engaged in combat, this character may attempt to use the Falcon Horn by making a leadership test. If it's passed until the start of the next turn, any subphase enemy units cannot use their fly special rule. So it's probably not that great because some armies don't even get the fly keyword, but it is interesting because it seems like it's board wide.
But it used to be better. It just happened. You didn't have to take a leadership check.
Right. Well, when was that? Was that right now, or was that like
that was the 6th edition? That was the newest Bretonnian book from 2004.
6th, 7th, 8th edition.
Yeah. It was auto. You didn't have to take a test. Okay.
Yeah. I think
Gotta nerf Bretonnians.
Yeah, nerf them.
Yeah. Well, okay. I don't think that's got to be only like a 10-point item or something. That's probably, I think that's what it was back then.
Yeah. There's 45 points.
It was 45 points?
I think it was 45. 35 or 45 points.
I feel like back then they expected you to like tailor your army depending on who you were playing, because 45 points for something like that, and then your opponent shows up and they have no flying units, it's like, that's awful.
You took it in 8th edition towards the end of 8th because you saw all the flying circus stuff coming out with monster mash lists, and it's like, okay, I'm probably gonna run into some like 2 Chimera build list and a dude on a disc.
Or four gyrocopters. I think you could run.
Yeah.
In 8th edition, I think so. I still don't know if that's worth that much. Damn, I still don't know if that's worth that much, but maybe it is. Okay. Okay, so that's just the. They do still have the Hand of Gork and Mork, which is nice, and it's a conveyance spell, which means it's cast in the movement phase, which makes sense because I think that was the one that actually like gave you like pushed you forward. Either I think it was like 8 or 10 inches, and they still have it in WAP right now. Okay, so we can go to the movement phase, which is going to be introducing marching columns, which I think is going to be very interesting. I don't know if it's going to be used as often as people think it is, but here and there, it's just cool to even have that option. I will add that window in here so everyone else can see it as well. Old World Almanack. Come on in. This was November 6th, so just recently. I didn't even know this was coming out, and then all of a sudden I see it being shared everywhere, and I was like, what is this? So that was fun to actually just get surprised. Obviously, the lovely Bretts. It is nice that they brought back the lance formation. But just as you can see, rank and files, you can kind of tell that those are on 25s and not just 20s based on how big they are compared to just a regular human. And
Are we going to have a discussion about how bigger the base is going to be?
No, because then everyone's going to like flip on us and be like, rah, 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 rah. I don't know why people are getting so adamant about that. I mean, it's important, but y'all just be a little patient. It's fine.
Yeah, it's like everyone's going to play in tournaments. Like, no, just use the same basis if you really have to.
Yeah, like as soon as it comes out. I'm really happy they brought back skirmish formations like this. So this is what 6th edition did was for skirmish. It was basically you just make this kind of ramshackle little circle or oval or whatever, and you just keep them within distance of each other. You don't have to do ranks like in 8th edition. I thought that was awful. They hopefully have 360 line of sight back again. Skirmish units got hurt really bad in 8th. They just were overall just piss poor. But in 6th and 7th edition, they were so useful. It was also cool to see the lance back. I do have to remake all my movement trays, but that's okay. It's a new game. It's coming back. So then I can
I'll make them for you, Blue.
Oh, you will? Thanks, man. So lance formation back. Does anyone want to talk about combat order? Who wants to marching column? Who wants to talk about that?
I guess I'll talk a little bit about it. Just the whole, I find it interesting with them kind of bringing in the marching column kind of formation, because it kind of, I'm interested in how the interaction of the rules are going to work within terms of like when you're in combat, how does that affect you? Because, previously you might see, let's just say a giant block of night goblins or skaven slaves that are 5 wide and whatever, 10 deep. And now it seems like you're going to be really disadvantageous when you're going to be in combat with this unit, right? It kind of makes me think Steadfast is still going to be in the game. Just for those that aren't aware, if you have, more ranks than your opponent, the unit is stubborn for combat purposes. And so it kind of makes me think that's going to be there, but maybe if you're in the marching column, you don't get it. So that way it kind of incentivizes, bigger, wider units rather than just these like really deep units that just never are brick walls that just never move.
Well, I think they talked about that, right? In here, it talked about how the column, you don't get rank bonuses or something. Wasn't that in the article?
It said you cannot charge. And if you do find yourself in combat, the unit does not get any combat or rank bonus.
That was it.
So they're definitely trying to dissuade you from doing the bus formation.
Where was that?
Yeah.
And I think additionally too, just with how you set up, I was looking through it. They almost how they do like in WAP with the you can't be deeper than you are wide. Like that's a core sort of setup foundation from what I'm seeing here too, where like you can't be deeper than you are wide, sort of built in.
Here it is. A unit formed this way may not charge. It earns no rank bonus in combat, but it can move at triple speed. So this triple speed is nice, especially if objective markers or maybe objective type terrain start to come into the game. So then you could, if you know you're not going to get charged on turn 1, you can start in marching order, just run up there, depending on deployment and everything, and then just next turn reform and just like sit on the objective. So that'll be interesting. Marching order.
It sounds overall like, I guess we thought should wait till we talk about the charges and stuff, but just before that, like, it sounds overall like it's going to be a little bit of a slower game in terms of movement for the most part. If they're giving you this triple move, because we'll talk about like the charges are shorter ranges now, so stuff's not going to be zipping across the board like it was in 8.
No 15-inch charging dwarves.
Yeah. But yeah, that marching column is definitely something you got from a historical rule set. I mean, that's in every Civil War rule set I played. You can't do much in that except move down roads fast.
Okay, so who wants to talk first about charges?
I'll talk about a bit about that because the whole wheeling before you don't get your free wheel anymore. I think a lot of people are sleeping on. In 8th edition, and in the Warhammer Armies project, you had a free 90-degree wheel to align and then move and then charge and make contact in a line. But the fact that you're losing that and that actually comes out of the distance you've rolled for movement is more like previous editions where you had to make that whole wheel with your unit and then get into combat, which was something when you had to or where you couldn't pre-measure. Made a lot of difference there because you have to account for you're doing geometry, you're trying to figure out how far you can move like that. But I think overall it's a good thing. It's a little bit more tactical. Like you got to think about these things rather than just like I can see you from like one guy on the edge of my unit barely can see your unit, and this whole thing just wheels around like a big horde formation kind of thing. Just wheels around suddenly and charges into the flank of something, and it's like.
So two things. One, Draconis, I completely agree. I like that buses will kind of go away. It was great to not see them Warhammer Armies project. It actually was very nice to not have them. Square-based, that's a good point. I have the old Ancient Battles rulebook. I should probably read through that to see, and they might actually pull several things from there, which would be cool because I never got to play Ancient Battles, but I have the rulebook, and it was always fun to just peruse through because obviously who doesn't like not only we're all, it seems like, military strategy buffs, at least in some regard, so it's nice to relate it to Earth's fighting, not just like fantasy. Sometimes it's good to see like what humans did back in the day. But I completely agree, Peter, about the wheeling. So in some regards, depending on how you're set up, if you're able to charge, it might only add maybe 2, 3, 4 inches to your charge because I assume that they close the door will still be a thing. So if there's like certain angles, maybe this is better, certain angles, and let's say this unit is charging, I would still have to measure, do I have to measure this? Or if there's no close the door, do I have to measure like, it's going to be interesting. I think it's only going to maybe add like 3 inches more to the average charge, which is fine. But Jonesy, do you want to talk about how they've shortened charge distances?
Yeah, so I mean they've changed a little bit about just the way it's mechanically done. So it's your base movement for infantry or non-swift stride units. You get 2 dice, pick the highest. So just say Empire State Troop can go up to 10 inches, minimum 5 inches, right? And so versus previously with 8th edition, you kind of roll the dice and you have a wide range of where your distance could be. At least you get a little bit more consistency with this. The other thing, I think, just the way charging and pivoting to charge, now that takes some, you have to utilize some of your movement to do that, is probably going to be the biggest change, in my opinion, from people who played like some of the later editions of fantasy, such as 8th edition or Warhammer's Armies Project, outside of just Magic. I mean, Magic's going to a completely different animal of how it's being done, but with just movement and how things are done, I think that's going to be a difficult change and just learning curve for a lot of people of just how it's going to be done. Because just going and it's just really, it really does take a lot of your movement away from you when you start having to pivot 2 inches, and now you can only go, let's just say, another 6 inches on an 8-inch charge, rather than before you could just measure a range band and you're like, are you within 8 inches of me? Right. Oh, you are. Okay. I'm just going to hit you now.
Right. So what did they change? How far can infantry go now?
So infantry.
Actually, sorry, real quick. What did they used to be able to go in? What they do in 6th edition, in 7th, because you were a big 7th edition, and then tell me what they did in 8th, and then tell me what they do in WAP, and then tell me what they're saying now, if you don't mind.
Yeah. So I can. So in 7th edition, it was just charging was just double your movement. That was every single unit type, infantry, cavalry. It was just double your movement, including flying. So everything was flying 10 back in 7th edition, and you could fly 20. It was flying was really powerful in 7th edition, needless to say.
Yeah.
8th edition, it was generally for infantry. Let's just say state troops. It was 2d6. So you go the range, complete range of there from, I guess, double ones is always a fail. So you always could always fail any charge, even if you were 1 inch away.
So stupid.
But so you could charge from, let's just say 3 inches all the way up to 12 inches, and any infantry could charge up to that distance. So you had dwarves outcharging elves, potentially outcharging cavalry. It was kind of a, casino kind of style of charging, in my opinion.
So
Warhammer's Armies project made it where it's kind of like a hybrid between 7th edition and what I'll describe as 8th edition, whereas, hey, you get your base movement plus, the highest out of 2 dice, right, for infantry. So, again, you're at that minimum of 5 inches and you can go up to 10 inches. Cavalry with steadfast could get their base movement and choose 2 of the 3 highest dice they got to roll.
Right. So Andrew, what are they doing in now for the old world?
Now, based off what I read, and I could be wrong, it looks like it's much closer to, I guess, what Warhammer Armies Project does. You roll your 2 dice, you drop the lowest plus your movement. That's your total range, right?
Right.
Now, where Swift Stride, it looks like you just take the sum of the 2d6, and that kind of reverts back to what 8th edition was, and it makes things like cavalry really scary. They have a higher base movement. Plus, if they're getting the average sum of 2d6, which is 7, I mean, that gives them a 16-inch effective charge range when most other things are going to have a, 7? Like, it's a big difference there.
So do you think, because I know in Warhammer's Armies Project, they have if you have just base movement with no Swift Stride, then they have less than movement 7 with Swift Stride, and then they have movement 7 or more with Swift Stride, or just movement 7 or more with no Swift Stride. So do you think that they're going to have like that kind of levels, or is it just going to be d6 plus movement, or sorry, 2d6, pick the highest plus movement, and 2d6 plus movement, or do you think they're going to have a subcategory in between those?
I think there's an opportunity for them to make the units they want to do, or they want to have do cool things while keeping the core mechanics just very simple. Like, if it's just black and white, you either have Swift Stride or some form of Swift Stride, or you don't. Boom. Unless it goes into that whole, like, here's the core rule book, and that's only trumped by the Army book or the Army supplement.
Okay.
I think that's the better way of doing that. I think there will be variations of. I think that's an opportunity for cool enchanted items to even further movement and stuff like that. Hope it stays mechanically core rule simple though.
Okay, so you hope they don't have that extra step in terms of Swift Stride. Peter, do you want that same thing, or do you want all your Bretonians to be going burr?
Well, they already said they're getting Swift Stride.
Yeah, but it says,
sure.
Doesn't that just mean 2d6 plus movement right now?
Yeah, it's like it was a full 2d6, which is, it makes sense. They're faster. I'm happy because I mean they have the higher movement anyway, and it goes for cap in general. But I think it's kind of a nice happy medium if it's going to be how we're saying it plays out. Where rather than having to go from like 6th edition where you're pre-measuring with the stock, 8 total inches for infantry, compared to having to having this huge variance with 8th edition where you're rolling 2d6 and it doesn't, you don't know what that's going to be. You're thinking 7 inches or something. I think it's a better, more rounded game because you're taking out those, random, the chance out of it. It's more of like, okay, hey, I know what I'm doing here. I know what I'm supposed to be charging. There's still an element in there of risk, but you still have a good chance of making that charge.
Okay.
So good middle ground, I think, would be that.
Well, I'm reading the article again as we go. It's great that they obviously kept all the charge reactions, hold, stand and shoot, flee. But they did say that I don't like, so if you're caught, you're auto destroyed. I hope they bring back unit strength, but so far they haven't made any reference to it. I really like that about Warhammer's Armies Project, that add an extra level of depth in terms of not having your unit just instantly die or holding objectives or being steadfast, etc. But I do like that they say that some alert units may countercharge. So that was very rare in the Warhammer Fantasy realm. So I'm very curious as to what that means. I'm betting that maybe all skirmishing units that are melee oriented have that, because they could easily all just run at them like single file, like by themselves, instead of having to rank up and charge as one. But I don't know. Any thoughts?
I've thought about like house ruling that and other things. Back like I tried to walk in or do this once where you pass an initiative test and you can countercharge, which clearly makes some armies way better than other ones. Elves are going to do that on two third or better chance.
Right.
But I thought that kind of made sense. But yeah, that's uh, I'm hoping they keep that limited to certain things and things that make sense. Uh, and obviously, they're saying not everything's going to have that. But I
What
mean,
if
like
they did
from
this? What if they made countercharge? You have to pass an initiative test. That would make sense, right? Because you're so alert. It's like if you're an elf, there's a good chance you can countercharge on a 6. Obviously, only certain units, not every unit should be able to countercharge because that's stupid. But if you're war dancers or something, you should be so alert and keen, like what's going on, that you don't fail on anything but a 6, and then you can like charge at whatever's coming or something. I don't
or
know.
make it a higher threshold for that. So this thing isn't a guaranteed. Like maybe flip the characteristic test. Like only
Okay.
on a 1 in 6 they can do it, but only
Mm,
certain units can't. Like, or maybe like, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You could do it where you have to take the characteristic test to be able to even be eligible to do it, but then depending on where you are, you still have to roll the charge after they move in. Because like that's one of the things with armies projects, and I very, very relentlessly utilize the wonderful Empire state troop rule to just make charging me a very unfun proposition. Like it can kind of be a bit oppressive coming in if you don't know what you're doing. So it can definitely be abused, but
A nuisance
it's
for
cool
sure.
when you get to use it. And it adds a whole level of depth. That's fun in my opinion. So I hope they keep it and it's not just over the top bonkers.
Mike says
So,
countercharge is his favorite thing from the article. We know Michael, Lizardman
so,
player.
so one of the things, just thinking kind of outside, uh, my initial thoughts, I guess, is just what happens if it's just like all characters get countercharge, right? So kind of going with what you were talking about before, Blue, where characters under a certain wound count can't aren't part of units, they can't be targeted, so they're kind of protected a little bit. And it's kind of like I can't remember what the 40K term is, but I just think of
Heroic
space.
intervention.
Yeah, just
Sure.
that ability for the characters to get into the combat, right, when they're relatively close to the basically the babysitting unit, right? Um, Kind of makes me think that maybe that's more
That'd be a
likely that these
cool
characters
option.
are going to be
I'd be okay
independent,
with that.
right?
I'd be okay with that. That'd be neat.
Or yeah, like a character with a unit or something. Just another display of leadership that you're able to do something with that rather than just having a guy who can roll more attacks in unit with one higher leadership. Actually, a little bit more options to. So people actually might want to take like some hero level guys and stick them in each unit.
You mean less bunkers, less anvils? Yes, yes, please, please.
Fewer.
Few. Yes, thank you. All right. Third step is compulsory moves.
I have a shout out on that
Yeah.
actually, which is interesting. So in previous editions, and maybe I've just been doing this wrong for 20 years, but like you
Probably.
take your psych test, probably very
Yep.
likely everybody's played me, but like stupidity, right? It says you take your stupidity test, and then I've always just like moved my stupid thing, like, hey, I do it right now, and here you go. It's like in this one, you take the test in the strategy phase. Then you go into this movement phase where you declare and move charges, and then you do compulsory moves, which is the when you move stupid things.
Mhm.
So now you have the ability, I guess, to mitigate stupidity, kind of screwing up some of your stuff. Because even if you know you're going to fail it, you're still going to move you get to pick which units are going to charge so that you don't just have like a big blob of stupid trolls or rat ogres just completely screwing up your entire charge phase, you know?
Okay, that'd be interesting.
Yeah, I was seeing that too, with the aspect of like the strategy phase has a lot of, like you said, I'm assuming frenzy is going to be, if frenzy's a thing, I'm assuming that's going to be tested in the strategy phase,
Hmm.
the stupidity thing, rally, you test for rally, and then you resolve all those items in the movement phase, which is, rather than right when the test was done. I was kind of curious on how they're going to do that, just because of the aspect of like you now are separating when you test and when you resolve it, right? You kind of have to remember like, oh yeah, this unit failed to rally after I moved all my chargers. Now I got to take this unit and run away with it.
Seems like tokens will be a good markers, like saying that this has failed a rally, this has failed stupidity, will probably be important because you and your opponent will likely forget.
But it also, just going a little bit back to the strategy phase, but that also mentioned about fanatics. That's when fanatics are deployed. There was specific reference there. So I'm kind of curious on what other things like that, like Dark Elf Assassins, we'll say, right? Some things like that where it's just, hidden information, hidden units, or when other things are triggered like that.
I'm
Does
sure
that
that
happen in
probably
the
have some.
strategy
That
phase?
might be something that's specifically in an army book, because if in the strategy phase an assassin pops out to fight a unit in close combat, that could give your opponent more knowledge and more time, depending on the phases and abilities that are within the game now, to react to that. Interesting. We were asked a question. What are you guys assuming countercharge is? I would say it's just if you get charged by an opponent. Oh, that's a good question. What if you met halfway? I don't think that was ever a thing. It was always just you get
That
charged and you
was
get the bonus too. What's up, Peter?
uh, fifth edition. Brett's had Virtue of Knightly Ardor or something like that, which was basically that was countercharge. That was like the only thing that had it. So you could meet in the middle on that, and so you could give that to your character or two. Um,
That'd be
but
really
and then
cool.
they got one guy in WAP who can do that, who can give the counter charge to his unit. But I think it is basically, I might be wrong, but you basically meet halfway on it.
Is that Albion or is that that sounds familiar. Who has countercharge
The
in WoW like that?
Norska.
Is it
Norska?
Norse?
Norska's got it
Norse?
too in WAP. Yeah,
Oh, they do. Okay.
I think they do. Yeah. Is it like the army wide special rule or something?
I think it is because I remember I had a conversation about that. I was like,
It's
"Whoa,
an
that's
army wide.
nuts."
Man, I haven't even read that one well enough.
Could be completely wrong, but that's well. They mentioned too in like the earlier like allusions to what we're kind of talking about right now. They talked about how borrowing from the ancients and stuff, the supplements they've done previously, that like a lot of this they want to trying to capture with this, I guess, addition is just like the ebbs and flows and like pushing back and forth. Like a countercharge would be neat to meet them in the middle. And I guess that's an advantage too, because they've alluded to like when you lose combat, you don't necessarily automatically run away, but you do kind of get pushed back. So if you have the ability to come and meet them like in the middle, right? Then if you do lose, I guess in theory, you don't get pushed back further, which gives somebody entryway into your lanes and lines and stuff like that. Hey, Blue, as a quick heads up, it's doing the 10-minute countdown again.
Yeah, I see that. I'm gonna go ahead and buy it right now while we're talking. This is
You didn't buy it 3 years ago.
no. Michael asked ambushers, Jonesy. So I guess that's assuming that. Do you think ambushers will be coming in the strategy phase? If basically, I think he's alluring to that. If fanatics are deployed, then does that mean ambushers and the such are deployed then as well?
I mean, I would think so.
Yeah.
I mean, just to talk about what I guess the answer to the original question, what a countercharge is. My imagination was that it's a whole other unit that does a countercharge. I didn't really think about the unit itself getting charging forward. But that might make a little bit of sense with what Andrew was saying with the regards of like, you're trying to hold a unit or pin a unit down, so maybe you can charge it in the flank with a different unit, right? The whole hammer and anvil strategy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So being able to get those extra few inches and not let's just say a Bretonian unit just push you back, who knows how many inches, right? With the way they're saying, let's just say it's D3, D6 inches, your unit gets pushed back when they lose combat. Now you might not be able to charge the flank of that Bretonian unit. Now what do you do?
Okay, so it looks like I have the wheel maneuver up. It seems pretty similar to what it used to be back in the day. I don't see really any changes to it when it comes to wheeling, pivoting. It seems you start here, You wheel up a little bit, you move up a certain amount of inches, and you finish the move. You go up again because they're cavalry and they're super quick, and then you wheel again. That seems pretty basically the same exact thing as it used to be. Man, Zoom's expensive.
One quick thing though.
Jeez.
Don't you have a
Never
YouTube
mind.
channel?
Disregard.
Yeah.
So one thing I was curious on the wheeling aspect of it,
What? Hold on.
is units like
Hold
Bretonians,
on.
right?
One
With
sec.
like,
Peter, I don't pay anything for a YouTube channel.
Oh no, I mean you get the revenue from all your
Oh
videos.
yeah, all the revenue I get from YouTube. Haha. Basically, it wouldn't even pay for the Zoom.
Gotta get those numbers up.
Yeah, basically. All right, sorry, Jonesy. Continue. Let me go get my
so one thing
credit
I'm
card.
curious on is how they're addressing the wheeling with regards to like, things like I imagine like the old 7th edition lance formation, right? Where your kind of standard was 3x3. Um, and, wheeling the front guy an inch, meant like the back guy wheeled like 3 inches, right? Because of just how long it was
Sure.
as a unit. So I'm kind of curious on how they're going to address kind of that situation. They're just going to say, hey, it's always the front guy. I think previous editions mentioned like no model can move further than
Double its
its
movement.
movement speed. So it's kind of
Right.
that's kind of where that back unit or that back model kind of was important of keeping track of that guy's movement. Because otherwise, I mean, you could make kind of ridiculous, whatever 30-inch charges theoretically, right? Depending on how much you wield
Right.
a unit.
Yeah, but I think the big thing is finally people might learn the difference between a pivot and a wheel.
Hey.
When I see a lot of people sometimes, and I used to do this too, but like I see people like, okay, yeah, they're gonna wheel, and I see them take the unit and move it like on its center. It's like, no, you have to hold that end of it still and move all the way around.
Yep.
So that'll bring some great clarity to the wargaming scene.
So next, it looks like they say we wheel. You can still turn. So they added the quarter. So this was, I don't think it's right here, is it? Do you remember? I think it was in this article where they spoke about how, which I believe it was in 6th edition, where you could, instead of reforming, facing, and moving, or just stepping sideways, your whole unit, everyone just stands where they are and they just spin like individually, and then they go. It takes a quarter of your movement, and then you spin and face again, and that's another quarter of your movement. So then you could still move like a half of your movement forward.
The musician does the cha-cha slide, right? Slide. So
Yes. So I'm curious if there. Well, let's see. Is that countdown still going? Because I just paid.
No,
for
it went away.
No,
Yeah, it's effing
told us
right.
you sprung for it. Yeah.
Zoom.
I'll be curious because when you pivot to the right like that, a unit presumptually will be in
Wider
the marching
than they-
column
Sure.
at that point, right?
Right.
When you pivot.
You
on-
can only
on the
wheel
spot.
with marching column.
Oh, really?
Nice.
That's what I thought I read.
Hmm.
And so like, and that's
Let me go up.
kind of like the triple. I'm less interested in the triple move. I'd be more interested in like keeping double my movement and keeping my combat formation, just like moving, 2-speed. I like triple as an option, but reforming and then not being able to change my facing and all that other stuff like makes stuff a little nerve wracking for me. I think, and that might be what we were talking about earlier, where the game becomes a little bit slower and more about angles and setting up that perfect charge for turn 3 instead of like right at the top of turn 2,
I don't see anything about the marching order. The only thing I see. What did you say? They can't wheel? Is that what you said?
They can only wheel. They can't.
Oh, reform?
Let me see.
You're saying they can't reform?
Yeah,
Or pivot on the center, because that would make no sense having a big long column of 4s for like a couple 100 yards. Just all of a sudden be able to change, and go perpendicular.
Well, okay, so one of the things I never liked about 1/8 edition or even in WAP really. So in WAP you can't be deeper than you are wide, right? But nowhere does it say you can't be 100 wide and 1 deep. Right? So you could have a unit of 50 just strung across the whole field and just walk up 50. I hope they don't allow that kind of thing in 8th edition. I've never actually seen it done. I don't believe so. But still, it's kind of annoying, and I hope I mean, it's a legit tactic, so maybe you should be allowed to do it, because even in 8th edition you could do that. Yeah, I don't know. Okay.
Well, one of the things about that that's
I'm not
a little
getting
interesting.
paid for that.
So
Get
this
out of
is
here. No sponsorships. Get
yeah,
out of here.
no free shout outs.
That's right.
One of the earlier articles from one of the, I can't remember, Developer Diaries, I think it was, talked about they wanted to encourage units to be bigger, wider units, and they talked about, even if your model wasn't necessarily in base-to-base contact, that it was still able to participate in the combat. So what you're talking about, where a unit is like 50 wide, let's just say of sword masters, right? And all of a sudden you charge in with a normal sized unit, and now you have 50 sword masters swinging at you. It's kind of a odd situation to be in.
Yeah. Thanks, Michael, for becoming an Empire swordsman. That is, hey, Mike, you are the first person to help pay for YouTube. So thanks, dude. Appreciate it. You're numero uno in my heart and in my mind.
Yeah, but Jonesy, I wonder if that's kind of like how in 6th edition they had overlapping, and some previous editions before that. Maybe it's a way to you had to actually physically
African
bring the model.
bullhorn.
Yeah,
It's indefensible.
Maybe you're just going to allow that, but without you having to actually move your shit around and get on the flanks like that, and just more of an abstract. Let's keep the game a little bit more streamlined, which I think would make sense.
What are you saying, Christian? What if there is no marching because they seem to emphasize this marching column function? So you're saying no marching at all?
Yeah, so you move your base movement all the time except when charging.
That would be awful. That would make the game, I think, too slow, wouldn't it?
Look under mechanics of movement in the article. It's the section right above the wheel maneuver.
Wheel maneuver.
It says you can move or march. What I think, and so they talk about march being.
Read the article, Christian. Gosh.
Oh no, that's not directed at anybody. This was more to me.
Oh, I'm throwing it right at Christian. Right at Go Bear.
They made double their pace. There's like a triple asterisk thing there. Okay. But what I was saying earlier, but they sacrifice the ability to perform any maneuvers more complex than a wheel, and their ability to shoot this turn for So
well, that seems like
that's
now. That means you can't
that's pretty status quo.
Yeah,
we haven't lost anything there, and that like I was saying, like they keep the double. That's good. I think you have the option of just full sending it if you're in the marching column, and you get that extra 1/3 extra movement if you go full steam. That's a little bit better.
One of the formations that we haven't touched on is the whole open order.
Open versus closed, yeah.
Yeah, so they kind of mentioned in the article that open order is, I guess it's kind of as a hybrid between skirmishing and what we know as like rank and file unit types.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're able to, maneuver a little bit easier through, I anticipate trees, things like that, or over difficult terrain, and they're just able to maneuver a little bit easier and do stuff. I'm kind of curious on kind of what units are going to be in that position, because that's kind of a unique thing that's never been done before. Right, so I can imagine like white lions from high elves are going to have count as open order going through trees, right? Something like that.
So like Strider,
Strider.
Yeah.
Jinx.
Yeah.
Brain fog.
Who knows what the names of rules are?
I know. Mike is asking for a free reroll at game days because he is sub to YouTube channel. What do y'all think of that? That seems kind of fair. Maybe one.
He does that anyway.
just unbeknownst to his opponent.
No,
does it right in front of him.
Countercharge. Mikey was suggesting that monsters get countercharge as a native rule for his wizards, and I'm like, absolutely not.
Yeah, lowest
I know you want
thing
that
in the game
in that
besides dwarfs.
Yeah, I agree. Draconis, it's going to be pretty niche. It's not going to come up very often. Maybe when you're so he talked about the triple move a little bit, the march column. I could see how towards maybe turn 4 or 5, when one of your units is way off in the distance because it's pursued something or it's fled really far and needs to get back in the fight real quick, you could definitely march order back real quick. Let's see what else they said.
Well, this also assumes that the normal 24-inch distance is there too. Like if the scenarios changes or even if the board sizes change, that may be more relevant.
I wonder if they're going to shrink it down to what 40K is right now. And I don't know if Age of Sigmar is shrunken down too, but I know 40K is right now on a 60 by 44, no longer a 72 by 48. So they could easily shrink it down just to be in line with everything else. Squarebase did say, go get my Ancients book. Y'all talk for a second. I'm actually going to go get it.
I think
bet.
that the whole
Very
open
nice.
order thing is another ruse for GW to sell more tokens for this game. Because it said that in the article, if you look at it, says that the open order, or it looks like it is they're still base to base in a block like that, but they're just declared open order. That's what I got from it. So that way you get to buy the token set to put next to your unit to say, oh, they're open order now, something like that. I don't know. It makes sense
That
to
would
me.
make sense. It would be.
And so,
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, I was gonna say it's gonna end up like a fantasy flight game with like a ton of tokens all over the board, and you can't even see the terrain map.
I don't see how that be viable though. Like, 'cause everybody's just going to 3D print that stuff.
Yeah.
Like I'm not going to go spend $60 on the open closed token.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, this is my quarter. Tails means I'm open. Heads means I'm closed. What's up?
Yeah. Right.
But
One of the things I'm most excited and kind of waiting for anticipation is kind of just point values, right? Of
Yes.
what units are, because then you can at least calculate or estimate out like how many models does it take to play a game that's a good sized game, right? I'm curious on what that, even if they just threw out, Tomb King Spearman, High Elf Spearman, Empire Swordsman, something along those lines, just threw it out there just to see, because the game looks a lot different when Knights of the Realm costs, let's just say 40 points, right, versus what they cost now at I don't know, 25, 28, I don't know.
Lower.
Squarebase, I am incorrect. I can't find my Ancients book, but I do have
Oh no.
War Master Ancients. So
I have the Ancients Warhammer supplement. If you want,
yeah,
if you want to
please,
go rent.
yeah, we're gonna go get it if you have it nearby. Woo!
Well,
We
Josie,
have
yeah, that's a good point from you though about if you put out like a base level points for like say a core unit, that's easy to kind of extrapolate and figure out maybe what the ballpark numbers might be for other units. I think that'd be kind of cool if they drop that in another one of these.
What's up, Draconos? He donated $5. Thanks, dude. Appreciate the shout out. No shot. Squarebase is saying it's going to be 6x4, no problem. Since Horus Heresy is also 6x4 still.
I hope so.
Oh, he said open versus closed is a unit type, so it's not actually a type of formation you can do. It's just a unit type. I will look at that. Jake, Jake Brolio, do you think all the armies of the old world are going to be playable from the get-go? Thinking Skaven. Yes, so on one of their articles, which I will find right now, they actually did list all of the armies that are going to be available at the get-go, and Skaven was one of them. They actually listed, it's basically everything that was from 8th edition. Basically all the ones that were in 8th edition were there. None of the new ones like Warhammer's Armies Project or anything like that. Like there wasn't Amazons or anything, but there you go. Main faction revealed. There you go.
Playable is one thing. Like what is playable? I mean, like are you going to get like a basic list, like kind of how they did Ravening Hordes in the past?
I hope so.
I mean, like it's like sure, like I've got plenty of different armies, and I have ones that are like the core armies that they've stated for this, but there's other ones I'm going to want to play. So at least having something there is good. But it is gonna, kind of suck if you got one army and it's not the core army, and it's like okay, you might have fewer choices, and I don't know what it's going to be. I'm hoping it all works out. But
you know what's funny? Skaven is not on the list of core factions.
On the secondary list, right?
Is there? It probably is.
Yeah. If you go,
they just done the Great Skaven Civil War or something like that.
It just says,
so,
what
like,
about the other populations?
Factions?
But they will be provided with rules at the launch of the game. So which is Dark Elves, Skaven, Vampires, Demon of Chaos, Ogres, Lizardmen, and Chaos Dwarves. So literally every single army that was from 8th edition will have rules at the start of the game or at the start of the release. But I assume that the other faction is just going to be later releases. It says these legacy faction army lists will be made available as free PDFs, which is nice, so you won't have to pay for anything. But the only thing I'll have to think about is it seems hopefully they don't go the way of Legends like in 40K where certain units and models just basically aren't usable anymore in like casual play, or can't remember the term, open play, whatever it's called now. So you will have rules. At least as good as the launch time indexes. I agree, Square-based. I think the indexes will be just as good, hopefully at the beginning. I hope they balance this as well as they can. I hope they're playtesting like crazy because I just don't like power creep. I get it when you have to sell models and everything and sell army books, but it makes it less fun for everyone else when there's certain people. It's really just about the community. You have to force the community to stay within the limits of trying to play fun, good thematic games. Yeah, you can also run events that are like try hard, ard boys kind of stuff, but you don't want people to get super salty when you show up with the casual, fun, fluffy list and someone shows up with just, I'm going to dick stomp you. So, which happens. So you basically have to, at the foreset of setting the tournament, etc., you just need to let everyone know, hey, this isn't that kind of tournament, or this is that kind of tournament / hangout, where you're just trying to just go as strong as possible. Square-based, nah, play to win, baby. Yeah, you're right. I get it. If you ain't first, you're last, right?
One of the things that the two articles have kind of at least shown me so far that I'm excited about is that you can clearly tell that this isn't going to be like I think it was Age of Sigmar that when it first came out, it was like almost like a booklet for the entire rules,
Okay.
right? Like you can tell that at least initially that this doesn't look like it's going to be any type of booklet. Like it's going to be a full on whatever 150 page read to go through all the rules with it. And that excites me that it seems like they're truly committing to this and really going after it. And like Blue said, play testing it and trying to vet out as much as they can.
Andrew, I hope so. Andrew, did you find the formations or the type of unit types? It is, I believe he said, it's open versus closed is in there. Blah blah blah. Open versus closed, and it's a unit. It's a unit type, so it's not a formation. It's a unit type.
All
The
right.
GW books that don't have indexes or glossaries.
Oh, 6th edition is the worst book to ever find anything in. If you're trying to find some specific rules, good luck in 6th edition because it'll be in a chapter on a page that has nothing to do with it and it's not referenced in the index or the glossary, and then you just had to know where it was, or you had to mark the pages as to where something would be. It was one of the worst organized books, but they stepped it up in 8th edition. 8th edition is almost perfect in terms of, all right, reference this page, boom, there it is. 6th edition, that was terribly organized. I don't remember 7th, but 8th edition was good.
Until you realize you have the entire rules for Magic, and then you have to flip to the back of the book to find out what all the spells actually do, which
Yes.
I never understood why they didn't just put those next to each other. It's like,
but at least there were page numbers listed. It was like this page and this page, so then you could go to both. 6 didn't have that at all. It was
that. So do you think they're going to do something like unit cards in this? Because every game's got unit cards now.
Kind of like those. Just I want to.
I don't care either way. I think
keep it there. You know. I'm not finding the unit facing here, but that just could be because I'm semi-illiterate.
No, it's a unit type.
Unit type.
Yeah. He said unit type. What'd you say? Draconis predicts 3 of those Legacies armies are accidentally the strongest game for the year. I could see that. Like Skaven, how Skaven in 6th edition is still really freaking strong in 8th edition. Like somehow their rules just carried over for 2 edition. It still made it. What was that spell? The one that didn't scatter? No, the other one. The one that Scorch. Scorch, yes.
Yeah, place the small template.
Yeah, just place it. Yeah. That was no armor save too, right?
No, it was just strength 4 flaming attack. It was just very, very consistent.
Reliable.
Plus the bell would sit one out of 3 turns.
Hey, I don't have to guess what you think is fair if we're both playing to win. Pro comp. There's nothing wrong with pro comp. Like, you can, even if two people are trying their hardest, they can still be friendly and have a good time with it. And if they're running like try hard lists, it's really about who you're playing. Because for 40K, I'm in a very competitive like field of players, I would say, and we're always very friendly because we just know everyone is like basically close to the same level. So we're all trying our hardest, but we're all having a good time while we're doing it. So you find something?
No, I was just kind of, while I'm looking for that, I was gonna talk. I think a lot of where the
Square-based,
frustration
can you
comes
go
from.
get your book and tell us what
Can
page it is?
you
Because
help me?
Andrew is failing us today. He is
Let
failing
me bring
us.
up the PDF.
Right.
Oh, you have PDF? Yeah, search. That would be great. That'd be good.
Charge reactions. Yeah, I'm not
Oh, that's
marching. I'm
cool.
not even seeing it.
Dracano
But
said he loves the old ETC comp where it was max 10% lords and 10% heroes. Now, I think that throws favor to armies where their core and all the other units are more powerful because
Hmm.
there's some armies like Empire that need to rely on their heroes for buffs and stuff. But I do like
mhm.
that concept too because then it seems it's actually you have a grand army on the field.
That'd be interesting to do like tournament rules like that, right? Where it's
Hmm.
just you have these like comp restrictions that are, I think of like Rusty's, one character, one no magic item list or something like that, right?
Love
Or
it.
one magic item. But uh I mean it was crazy. I think he might have had more Chaos Warriors than I had of Empire models. Uh
Oh, yes.
Oh,
yeah, I mean it was
All right, I'm going to play my favorite video of Rusty. Let me see if I can get it to play. Hold on.
This is round 3. We had one guy who's
his band days,
didn't want to.
hair band.
No, 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 not when he was like in the 80s. Let's hold on. Y'all keep going. Hold on. I'll just see if I can add this to here so y'all can see it too.
is there anything
That's
y'all are
it.
excited to kind of look into or kind of hear about, Andrew or Peter, with the upcoming kind of articles or
I mean, like what you said, points values, huge. I want to dig in if they release some magic items. Look at that. What unit choices you're going to have in armies. I mean, we're not going to know all that until when it gets released, but totally something I'm looking forward to because I love building lists.
I'd be curious to see how combat's going to work and if they're going to go back to like sixth edition, where if unit gets charged and your front rank gets wiped. Well, hey, you don't step up, you don't move up. It's just you got wiped. That'll be interesting. I've been watching a lot of sixth edition battle reports lately, and that definitely changes game speed and sort of tempo and stuff. Because when you have the supporting ranks and everybody always hits, it's always someone's going to do something. But
Um,
that combat will be interesting. And then I think army composition in general, kind of going back as like a Skaven player, what are these indexes going to be? Are there going to be things like warp lightning cannons? Are there going to be what are the guys with the rattling gun hands? Storm fiends?
oh yeah,
Are
those
you going to
things.
have storm fiends, or are those like retconned out because that was created by somebody who hasn't been born yet type deal?
Yeah,
I'm curious what units are going to be available.
Yeah, I'm
you know,
looking.
I hope they have a good selection of them. And rather than like you, because like the trend has been you only put stuff in the book that you can actually buy. Like it's not like unit choice is going to be a better thing because I mean I remember like the sixth edition Brett book has some of the fewest unit choices of any of the books. There's all sorts of things you can't use, and it's like yeah, Brett's you're just using cavalry for the most part,
Mhm.
but still like just even for other armies, just having some choices out there would be nice. And you can always run stuff like if you have the models, just run them as something that's in the book.
Sure.
Like these questing knights are just knights of the realm, but always having different rules is always fun.
See, I always liked Step Up. It gave because in sixth edition it was if you get the charge, you will most likely like kill half of the unit that's swinging that like you're swinging into, or not half the unit, but like half the unit that could actually half the models that could swing back. It was they made charge so important that having faster units like Fly that were flying 20 just so powerful. So that's why I liked that they took that away at least in that respect. Let me. I'm gonna pull this up. I don't know if y'all can hear the audio, but I'm at least gonna play this. This is
This is round 3. We had one guy who didn't want to play.
this is at
Which
Call
is
to
totally
Arms
cool with
last
me, so
year.
the next can walk around and film some stuff.
I'm not hearing anything.
Not hear anything?
Can you share screen?
Rusty being
That
Rusty.
makes me laugh every time. I love his face when he. So basically, I'll show it to y'all later. I'll have to like add a source to it and figure it out. But basically, I say, yeah, one of the guys had to drop, and then Rusty is like, huh? Like, who dropped? Oh, that's great. But just the fakes he makes me laugh every time I watch that video. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Struggling to get second edition standby.
X edition.
Sorry, second edition. Yeah.
X addiction.
So Rusty's really wanting to. He's been wanting to play third edition for a while. We did play, I think it was 2 games of it, and that was very entertaining. But that's when guys can get like rocket launchers and weird stuff, so it's interesting.
Was it
Is
with
that
rocket
still when there was
launcher?
a lot of the holdout RPG elements where it's like you're telling a
Yep.
story as much as you are playing a war game?
I think what I'm looking forward to most of is just one, the models being re-released. So, like in one of the articles, they have all the orc boar boys that you can only find for $100, $200 on eBay. Those are so hard to find, and they're
Peasant men
honestly
at arms,
peasant men at
in the butt to
arms,
find.
Tomb
Yeah,
Kings, all that stuff. So new models, re-releasing old models for me, and then I'm curious to see if they're able to keep at least some of the aesthetic from 8th edition and back. Obviously, the Bretonians look gorgeous. The Fae looks freaking amazing. I think the Payro and Pegasus Knight looks amazing. I'm a little skeptical of the Foot Knights. I think they look a little too ornate for my liking. But all the other Bretonians look amazing. So I hope that I'm looking forward to new models. New models and growing the community. I would love a larger player base because I have to drive just like Jonesy. If we want to play with more people, it's like an hour at least to actually meet up with more people to play with. There's only 2 or 3 around me locally, and everyone else is up north basically. There's some down southeast, but everyone is at least an hour away. So I would like more local people at my local game store, and I would love to hold larger events. So if I could get like 50 people at like a Warhammer Fantasy event again, man, that just like gives me the shivers. Just like we're back, baby. Yeah, I love it. I love it. Warhammer Fantasy is my game, and I love 40K too, right? But Fantasy is like my die-hard. If I had to choose one, that's what I would. If I had to play one game forever, it would be Warhammer Fantasy. So, but
Yeah,
that's
I
me.
mean, I think that's the most important thing with this too. Is like I'm gonna play this game regardless. You know, even if people hate the rules, if I don't really like it too much, because like you're gonna have opponents again regularly. I mean, like you guys, sure, I get to play you guys, but I'd honestly rather play someone else now.
I'd rather play someone. That's fine. I get it.
Oh, but no. I mean, I think that's the important thing. It's like, yeah, let's at least get on the table and at least try these out for at least a year and get some games going. And you know,
I think we're in a unique spot as a community though too, because like no matter how this goes, we've spent the better part of a decade doing our own thing, and so if it comes out and it's complete, flop, which it won't be, because I'm with you, Peter. I'm going to play it no matter what. But like we have options where we didn't before now, right? And who's to stop us from taking, hey, this is the good part, this is the parts of the other stuff. Let's just do the super edition and do whatever the heck we want, right?
just play WAP again.
Yeah, like there's a way that if I don't think these rules will be fubbed that much, but the problem is it's holding like if you wanted to build your own edition, then it splits the community even more. And I'm hoping GW is building this edition, looking at Kings of War, looking at Warhammer's Armors Project, looking at Conquest, looking at the Ninth Age. Like I hope they are trying to make an edition that everyone can be like, okay, this is good enough. Let's all come back and obviously we're all going to bitch and moan about, oh, this was better in this edition or this was better in this game. But if it can at least, some people hate GW and I understand that. But I hope this can just like bring as many people together as possible because, man, that'd be so sick.
We can hate together. We're
Yes.
all in the same boat of
Yeah.
hating the same thing.
We can all be
Well, it's like the survey, right?
miserable together.
What's your favorite part of the hobby? Is it playing the game? Is it modeling? Is it painting? Or is it complaining about GW and like 65 pins, Option D, screw GW,
Yeah,
but
no.
whatever.
Everyone hates the man. Everyone hates the
Can
man.
we have our base discussion real quick?
Oh, geez. Yeah,
How
go
we're
for it,
gonna
man.
do how we're gonna fix the movement trace
Well,
and everything?
before that, Val, he posted that he said he saw the movement, the different base sizes. Oh, sorry, continue. I'll see if I can find it.
There was like a developer diary that did talk about like the base sizes are
That's what it
generally
was.
increasing for infantry. I
Hmm.
think they said all infantry from 20 millimeters to 25, and then some 25 millimeter bases are moving up. Some are staying the same, but I think cavalry is in the category of all cavalry is moving up at some level. It's just like I think things like demonettes, right? They're on 25 millimeter bases. They're probably pretty good there. Maybe do they really need to go to 30? Or marauders, I think them as well.
Yeah, they don't need to go to 30.
Wait, was the Val guy saying that he's seen the actual bases, or is this different from the developer's diary?
I'll have to find it. He's the guy who is running. I think it's coming up soon, or he already did it. I think it's coming up. It's the 8th edition tournament that's going to be held at Mini Wargaming up in Canada. Um, I would have gone to that, but it was a little too late for me to see it or for me to make plans to go to Canada. Where did he post it? I'll look at it.
AKA Blue didn't update his passport to be able to.
That's not wrong either. It's not wrong either. I'll see if I can find it. Okay, so what about the
I
base
mean,
sizes? What did you want to? Are you talking about movement trays and stuff?
I think it's a hobbyist-minded person. I think it's going to be easy to fix that.
Oh, hey,
What
Val's in the chat. I forgot you're square based. Okay, what'd you find? What'd you find, buddy? He's got 30 coming to the tournament in Mini Wargaming. That's freaking awesome, man.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's actually not pronounced Canada. Did you know that? It's not actually pronounced Canada. That's not how it used to be pronounced, but that's okay. And Ottawa is actually not pronounced Ottawa. It's like, shoot,
Udua?
whatever. I can't remember. But if it's like a native thing. Okay, square based. What is? Haha, he said no. This is not official communication. Okay. He's just going on
Okay,
rumors.
so
Going on some rumors.
he's making shit up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's okay. We all do that. We all like to theorize and theory craft. He said
That's
he
fine.
hated eighth too much, but yes, you can believe me or not. Can believe me or not believe me, but it's 30 millimeters for large and 30 by 60 for cav, and there will be both large and small cav.
They're like monstrous.
Canada. Yeah,
And
Canada. It's not Canada. It's Canada. That's right. Canada. Well, Monsters Cav were on 75 by or 50 by 75. 50 by 75. So
I think since it's a unit game, I don't think the actual base sizes matter too much for existing models. You just as long as your frontage is what it needs to be, there's clever ways to add 5 mil on each side, and then you can just magnetize and stick. And that even gives you it's like the perfect blend between the Kings of War sort of big base
right.
while still being able to pluck and remove individual models. Like it could be you'll see some really cool stuff for it when it takes off.
I think it'll be like Game of
Yeah.
Thrones, like how you just have like the circles in the center, and then you can just do, but you just do that with squares
Yeah.
instead, and it'll be just fine.
Yeah, and like I was thinking, I'm gonna buy a ton of 5 mil wide plastic card strips,
Hmm.
and just take some of my larger bases, or just make get new ones,
Mhm.
and just lay those out every 25 for infantry or for cav, every 30, so that it's kind of like those skirmisher trays that you had
Sure.
in 8th, but just 5 mil, so you still have the frontage on there, and you can still actually technically measure from like one strip of plastic card to the end of the base, next piece to the end of the base.
So
You still technically have your frontage.
is that more complicated than just having 3D printed movement trays?
I mean, I think it'll look better because I think the 3D printed ones, like, are you talking about the Sabo ones where you the individual ones that you plop in, which I think is another good idea. I've seen some people ranking stuff up like that.
Okay.
With this will just like a modeling perspective, it'll make everything seem more flush because what you can do is you can texture the strips and put the basing material and the static grass and stuff over those the same as your bases. So it all kind of looks like it's on one unit when they sit in there
Okay.
and still maintain your frontage.
Speaking about base size, the one thing, has anyone seen anything about templates? Are templates gonna be no longer existent? Or they,
I think are
That's a
are
good
templates
question.
still a thing in Heresy?
Yeah,
Yeah, they are.
Heresy is templates.
Mm-hmm.
I think they'll probably stay and be the same here.
Let's see if I
I'm
can.
hoping they will, because
Well,
that's like part of the crunchiness
Would they have to
of.
change if all the base sizes change? Don't you think they would then change the size of the templates?
I think
I mean, that would make sense,
that
right?
they will get my money on. I won't do the open close formation tokens, but if I have to buy all new templates, then
Yeah.
all right, you got me.
You got me. I'm
No, that's
looking.
when they just start using like the apocalypse game ones. It's just like used a small round template, and it's like this big. Like what the fuck?
I'm looking for that. Val said he said in one of the pictures he said the Wolf Riders look like they're on the old cavalry bases. So I'm gonna try and see if I can find that real quick while we're.
Oh, so there would be 25 mil cab and 30 mil cab,
That's what he's thinking.
and then
So
75 mil monster cab.
I think I think Val is purely speculating.
yeah, he is, but
Yeah.
he's just going off one of the pictures that he saw, and I'm gonna see if I can.
But that would be interesting. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't imagine Pistoliers being on these like massive bases. I mean,
Well, based on their old, they were all riding like freaking Clydesdales. Like those were
Yeah.
huge freaking horses. They were bigger than
Those
Preg
things like
horses. They were.
compared to like the generic unbarded GW horse, the ones that like yeomen are on
Mm-hmm.
and that are like every other character on, they looked huge.
I will say I love artwork. Like I can dissect each piece of art and I will just sit there and like so it is cool to see like new Tomb King art and new Bretonnian art. That's it's very nice. I hope they keep coming out with new stuff. I love looking at like pictures like that. Drawings are
What do you
great.
think the ideal makeup for the starter set would be? Besides, like, we're pretty sure it's going to be Bretts and Tomb Kings, but like,
Sure.
uh,
What are you asking?
well, what do you think the units would be in that?
Oh, the
Like a
units?
starter.
Foot Knights, Men at Arms, Cav unit, character
Yeah.
for Bretonnian.
Something
Maybe
big and
maybe unit
flying.
archers.
Yeah, I'd say probably archers, foot knights, 2 units of cab, and a character.
Yeah, that sounds right. But Tomb
And
Kings,
then
they haven't
Tomb
released
Kings,
any more models. It's only been the one Tomb King on foot, right? That's the only thing they've released.
yeah, maybe like Tomb King, maybe a Lich Priest, because sometimes like they in the starter sets they don't give you the actual number of characters you actually need to field the army. Like with undead and stuff, you usually need like at least a caster, and then Brett's you needed a BSB and a lord to make it legal, or a character, and then I don't know, probably like something like 40 or so skeletons. Some of what are the serpent riders called again? Because you want to have like you want to be able to use each different uh, part of the rules in those two armies. So you want to have a war machine, you want to have cavalry, you want to have infantry, you want to have spellcaster.
Battle of Trebuchet, Screaming Skull Catapult for and Trebuchet for
Yeah.
those. That'd be fun. Little artillery battle.
Yeah,
Hey,
It'll
Aaron.
be like the old school like dwarf cannon that was like 1 inch long.
Dude, that thing was like
yeah.
a little chode. A little chode. Aaron, well, that's why I only did D3 wounds, if I remember right. Aaron, I saw your message, and it says, can't say, but I appreciate y'all and looking forward to the old world and WAP content. Thanks, dude. Appreciate you. I will say that when I first read that, I thought it said, can't say I appreciate y'all. So I was like, oh, that's cool.
Well,
So I took that the wrong way at
it's
first.
a weird way to start a comment.
I know. I was like, damn, bro.
I don't
Alright,
like
it's
you
cool.
either.
I don't like you. Fine. And you can get out. It looks like you did a big comparison of all of them. Blah, blah, blah. Like bolt throwers. I guess they're putting artillery pieces on bases again. I think they look great on bases. I
I
think they
think
look
it's a
good.
good thing just to clean up the game.
Yeah, because it's
Yep.
like sometimes if you just have like a treb, actually I guess it's easier this way. Just have a treb and you're charging here. There is no close the door, so you're just stuck here. Now you could then move any way you wanted, but like you could complete the charge any way you wanted, but there was no closing the door. It was just like you hit it, and now you're technically in content or in
That
contact.
that reminded me of something about when we were talking about like charging and movement and the articles and stuff too. I think it'll be interesting to see if you roll your charge range and then you have to determine your wheel to maximize and do that stuff, or if you have to figure out what you know what I mean? Like, because like
Well,
let's say that like corner to corner, like let's say it's a 6 inch charge, right?
yep, I know what
And
you're
if I
saying.
wheel, let's say I'm 4 inches away, I roll a 6. Well, then I get like a 2 inch wheel that I can get in. But if I roll like boxcars or something, then I can get like more units in and like really kind of crank the facing.
That's
Or I could
interesting.
get
Yeah, aligning.
yeah, or you get weird situations where you have like a character and it's just like my character file is against like your little rank and your little dude file, and all of a sudden it's like you can only hit my character. I'm gonna win that combat
So
because
it does say, and this I remember reading this in the article. I pulled it back up. This is what the paragraph states. It says if you're within range and you're accounting for wheeling, so that means you did account for the wheeling, the distance actually you have to wheel, and that's just to make contact because it doesn't say. It says move the charging unit into base contact with its target, bringing the maximum number of models from both sides into combat. So you have to wheel as far as you can with still being able to make the charge while also bringing the maximum models in combat. So if you can only, with your distance and your wheel, you can only make one guy touch one guy, that's where you are. Like
okay,
that's where you are. Now that's going to be rare for that to happen, but depending on what you roll, you could set yourself up if I roll a 6 or if I roll an 8, I can only make it base with one guy. But if I roll a 10, then I make it with 3 guys. That's going to be very hard to obviously mitigate. But depending on what you roll on the dice, you could actually do that. But it does
What?
say you have to move the full distance towards your target, so you can't like move less. But you could set it up like if you're, let's say you need an 8 total and your movement's 4, so you need a 4 on the dice. If you roll A4 and you're only able to make one base to base, and that's all you get. So I hope they have the slide rule or some kind of thing because when you're just like this, and in 6th edition, if you hit one on
yeah.
one, you're stuck. You can't move.
It's like
There's
when you
nothing.
overrun too. In 8th edition, when you'd overrun, like even if you just kind of came in, just like even halfway tilted, like halfway on somebody's base, like you just came forward and hit wherever you hit.
No, I think overrun was just like in WAP, I think, right? So if you overrun this unit and you just go straight, you count as a charge. So you count as charging this
Yeah,
unit.
it's
So
still
instead of doing
like you said.
this, you
Yeah,
go.
In eighth, I thought you still aligned when you overran.
You do. You do. You
Yeah,
count
yeah.
as charging. Yeah, I think so. I remember.
that's
If
one
I
of the things
remember right.
they kind of fixed up there. But
Yeah, because in
what do you
sixth
guys
edition that was awful.
going back to the War Machines? Do you think crew are actually going to do anything
No,
in this?
No.
Like you're
Blue
actually
Yeah.
counters.
nope.
I think
they're
that's a
doing
great
counter
quality of
still.
life change.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's kind of a death wish to be a War Machine crew in Warhammer Fantasy, but
Well, at least when the
yeah.
War Machine panics from stuff like nearby running, they just go under. They don't just like run away.
And you have to roll for see where the hell these like 3 crew members are
Yeah.
running across the board.
See.
I played a game one time where I killed the crew of one war machine, but I killed the other war machine's war machine itself. So the crew from the one went to the other one.
See, I
They're
like
still
that.
alive. Huh?
That's
That was
like total.
6th
That's like
edition, yeah.
Total War. That's like Warhammer Total War, where if you kill a crew, they could like any crew can just drop a war machine for no reason and then just go to this other one. Like I like that actually. I think that's cool.
But
Or
yeah,
like if you had too few crew, like the Hellblaster could only fire every other turn because you had like one guy left trying to crank the thing.
Oh, what if you could combine crew? Like there's one crew left over here and 2 crew left over here, and it takes 3 to fire a gun, and you like somehow get them to the same artillery piece. And
Yeah,
clearly not
moving
discussing the
without
rules.
marching.
oh yeah, yeah. Can you triple move? Ooh, can you triple move if you're a single model?
Hmm.
But you can't. You know what I mean? Like why can't you triple march if you're just a single model? Like, why do you have to be in a marching formation or whatever
Because
it
you're
was?
not deeper than your wide.
Yeah, but it's
Or
like,
are you?
or are you? But yeah, if you're
Only
if you're
Only
50 by
cavalry can, because
75,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
deeper than you
Well,
are
they're
wide.
faster, so no.
Chariots, cavalry.
Interesting. Okay, so it's 10:30. Do y'all have anything else to add at the end? Is there anything else? Closing arguments? Closing arguments? No?
Excited that
Cool.
there's
No,
fantasy.
I'm just kidding. Yeah, I'm very excited for fantasy. I think we've all been waiting. When was 8th edition? Like
2015.
2015. So it's been 8 years since there's been an official GW edition. Wait, what was that? The end times?
That was end times, yeah.
That was the end of it?
So they killed it.
Okay, so I
I was
probably haven't
I was
played.
living in Thailand when that happened.
Oh man.
I came back and my whole little community had exploded. It was sad.
When did the end times start? How many years of that did they have? Was it like 2 years of it or just one?
I think it was just one. They came out
One,
pretty
'cause-
quick.
So let's just say
Yeah, because I remember
2013,
going to an
2014.
end times tournament in 2015. It was Brawler Bash.
Hmm. So I wouldn't, for me, I wouldn't consider End Times true fantasy because it became like such a Maka thing. So I'm gonna say it's been 10 years since we've had a Warhammer Fantasy like edition, like fantasy.
Mhm.
So I'm really looking forward to coming back and just seeing what we can do. I'm excited to. So I think I'm allowed to say this. If not, oh well. Uh, so I will be getting stuff about a month early before, and I can't release anything. Won't be releasing anything, but I will have all the content ready. So as soon as something drops, I'll be able to like make content with it, and I'm really looking forward to just digging my fingers into this game and seeing like what's unbalanced, what's balanced, what I think is amazing about the game, what I think could change to be walked back to at least bring it up to like what the community expects. I'm just really looking forward to this, man. I had no idea this was going to happen. Like Kyle and I just wanted to start this and just like, hey, let's start recording some stuff and like see how many people want to watch it and or enjoy watching what we're doing. I need to get some more battles in. We do have a tournament actually coming up on November 18th, which is just 2 weeks away, a little bit less than 2 weeks now.
10 days.
Yeah, week and a half basically. One more tournament up in Fredericksburg, and it's going to be at Game Garrison, and we're going to be playing Warhammer's Armies Project. It's basically 2,500 points. We're going to be doing the Nova missions, which are objectives on the fields, and I haven't decided which ones yet. I'm probably just going to roll it because I don't want anyone to have some kind of advantage. So bring a balanced list if you're coming. I don't know which of y'all three are coming. If you can, if you're not, it's cool. Andrew will be there. Peter will be there. Jonesy? Oh, I got 2 thumbs up from Jonesy. That means he's not showing.
He's bringing 2 lists.
Yeah.
He's bringing 2 lists. They said Age of Sigmar dropped summer of 2015. So it was 2014, I guess, when the end times blew up. Okay, good to know. It was not even like a year. Yeah, they really went through that. Because I stopped playing. End times. Well, thanks, guys. Y'all, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it. And I love being able to talk to y'all and just nerd out for a while about Warhammer Fantasy. So I think that's it, boys. Let me try and close this out correctly. So I just hit.
When are lists due for the tournament?
Yeah, good call. They're not due.
They're not due.
Nah,
All right.
you could. If anything, maybe I could make it
Make
by
mine up after round 1.
No, shoot. I'll do it by next Wednesday. So that gives me Thursday and Friday to review them. So I'll set it so it's next Wednesday.
It's my Nova list.
Yeah,
The only thing I'm
that's
changing
fine.
is
All right,
doing
well, I'm
Wither
gonna
instead
have a
of
grudge
Gaelic
against
Bow.
Andrew and then build my list just to beat him
Yeah.
first round.
Well, no, you have to play Zach
Yeah,
to try and
I
get
know,
best
I know.
general. So we're gonna see what happens there. Okay, so no
You
one
should
say
have 2
anything.
lists.
You should. So no one do anything. I'm gonna try and do this correctly. So y'all don't leave yet, but